me, Lieutenant Fisher. Just occurred to 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 me, Lieutenant Fisher.
The people that are going to be performing different functions.
And a thought just occurred to me, Lieutenant Fisher. You're a police officer, you're also a private citizen, you have a right to not be filmed. I did not know that, because I was not told that you may be speaking in this proceeding. And I assume that counsel, it's part of their job to advocate, and sometimes they have to be filmed. Do you have any objection to being filmed?
No, I don't.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. Can you just start over and tell me what are the normal parameters?
We have a public information officer, so all media requests go through that public information officer. Whoever is going to come into our facility, he provides us with their names, their date of birth, their driver's license, social security number, so that we can do a security check. At that point, we do a security check, and when we start to decide how much security we're going to have to provide, can this be done without impacting our normal operations, or do we have to provide extra security? If we have to provide extra security, then we will provide a cost estimate for that extra security, and we will ask the media to pay for that prior to the interview actually taking place.
Okay, so is there a space there that is approximately 8 to 10 feet that is relatively quiet if a media interview were to be conducted?
We have certain rooms that we have used in the past for this type of confidential or media type interview, yes.
And normally do you have 2 reporters in the room, or is it just 1 reporter, 1 camera?
We have had several different types of functions. We've had 1 reporter by themselves. We've had 1 reporter with camera people. We've had significant events where there might be more than 1 actual agency there. So we've dealt with all of these different types of situations.
Okay, so you could accommodate 2 cameras, 2 reporters.
We could.
If you had to, okay. And then would 2 hours be something that would be workable for the Department of Corrections normally if there's a media request of this nature?
With the rooms that I'm thinking of, those are rooms that are going to be remote from our normal daily operations. So we would have to get additional staff to actually provide security. So we could do it, but it would be costly, and we would have to be reimbursed by the media for our costs.
Okay, so with respect to the parameters set forth by Mr. Wagener, it sounds like that those themselves are workable with the Department of Corrections. If the Department of Corrections is reimbursed for any additional security or costs, but that there are some security concerns that arise specifically with Mr. Wagener. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so then let's go to those security concerns regarding Mr. Wagener. Mr. Wagener will have an opportunity to respond. Do we need the lieutenant to respond to this, or may she sit down with me? Because my questions are going to be about A, the press pass, and B, the alleged assault against a federal officer, what information you have, and whether this is even right for me to address, whether we have to come back another time when Mr. Wagener can have an opportunity to contest the claims. Can Lieutenant Fisher sit down, or do you still need her to be there to respond to those issues?
Lieutenant Fisher had the direct telephone contact or email contact, so she might be better.
Okay, so it sounds like the parameters are something that DOC can accommodate, and if we get beyond the security issue. Let me just raise, are there any security issues that you know of with respect to Ms. Ashley?
We have not been allowed to run a security check on her. We don't have any of her information. So we would have to do that prior to allowing the interview.
Have you made a request for that information for Ms. Ashley? Or maybe she didn't send a request herself yet?
She has not contacted our public information officer.
Okay, so that's not right for us to address then. We'll just speak only about Mr. Wagener. What is it that you have information about regarding the press pass issue from Santa Barbara, and then also the assault on the federal officer, and any other security issues that DOC has as a concern?
On September 23rd, employees' report was written by the Sheriff's Department based on their investigation of his photographing outside basically between the court building and the jail building. We weren't sure which building he was filming at the time. And in that report that I received from the Sheriff's Department, it listed the information that he had presented to them, credentials from Santa Barbara County, and when they checked out those credentials, they were told that he had had those credentials revoked down there. And that they had made a request for us to confiscate them. And that he was misrepresenting himself if he was saying that he had any kind of affiliation with Santa Barbara County.
Had any kind of press pass from Santa Clara County?
Correct.
Do you know why that press pass was revoked?
No, they did not tell us, other than he had created some disturbances down there in their courtroom.
Do you have any other information about the Santa Barbara press pass issue?
No.
Okay, so then is the disturbance you alluded to the alleged assault upon the federal officer?
I am not sure of that. That information actually came from a different aspect of the Sheriff's Department. The court security lieutenant sent me an email in which he had spoken with Sergeant Eastus of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, who made the statement that he had assaulted a federal officer and that the FBI had investigated that assault.
Do you have any other information about that alleged assault?
No, I do not.
Do we know when it occurred or where?
No, we do not.
Do you have any information as to how long it would take some entity, I'm not saying that it would have to be your DOC, but how long it would take for someone to get more information on this so the court could have a full understanding of any security issues at play?
Well, the Sheriff's Department has a representative on the Joint Terrorism Task Force, so I would imagine within a couple of weeks he could have further information from the FBI on the extent of their investigation and what their disposition of the case was.
Okay, so Lieutenant Fisher, are there any other security issues that you'd like to make me aware of?
No, ma'am.
Thank you very much for being here. Ms. Lee, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I think we've addressed everything.
Okay, Mr. Gibbon Shapiro, you've been sitting there patiently. Would you like to be heard?
I think I would first like to say that the concern that the court voiced that statements made by Mr. Christopher in an interview made used against him is a very real one, because should an interview be granted, he would most likely be attempting to subpoena the videotapes of that interview to have them transcribed and for possible use in the trial against Mr. Christopher. So that is a very real concern the court is speaking. As to Mr. Wagener, I have no information about anything that happened in Santa Barbara County. I'm not going to have any information one way or the other about that. As to Ms. Ashley, the concern that I raised before, I guess is still my concern, and it is one that you appropriately addressed also by the alternate defender's office.